Welcome everyone to a Impact and Influence with Rob Matheson from Cunninghams Real Estate. Rob, thanks so much for joining us today.
No worries.
I know you're very well known in the industry and you've been around for a little while now. You, in your own success, you've worked through big, successful sales agent, very successful business owner within the LJ Hooker network. More recently, you kind of stepped into that, call it corporate leadership space. Can you really quickly, I don't want to go over your story, so to speak, but I think, because no offense, that could take a while.
Yep.
But I think for me, what's more important, because we know that you've had success in that space, what moments, I suppose, have been really career defining or really shaped your career, or perhaps maybe not moments, but mentors in that space for you over the years?
I think the biggest one was engaging in a coach. I didn't realise how important it was until I took one on. It was the breakdown, them looking at me and my business and what I did and how I was productive. And there was a couple of game changers once I took my first coach on, was around setting some goals and knowing why I actually got out of bed and why I was actually doing what I was doing. I think before that I was just getting up and going through the daily grind. And that was really important because then I could set things for 1 month, 3 months, 12-month goals, and then beyond 3 and 5 years. Daily accountability was probably my biggest one. I didn't realise how much time I wasted. I was probably the hero of standing around a coffee machine or a photocopier talking to everyone. So daily accountability, and it was not because I was being micromanaged, it was because then I could actually look at what I was doing with my time. And so much wasted time. I thought I was busy, but I was actually busy doing nothing, to be honest.
100%. So when did you first bring a coach on?
Hate to say it was probably about 17 years ago. So I got a coach from the States, a guy by the name of Bob Boland, and I would say that was a career changer. And it was because he wasn't connected to my business or the business I was involved in or anything. He just looked at it purely and utterly from the outside in.
It's so important to have that other perspective, isn't it? Because we get so caught up in what we're doing and so focused on what we're doing that we forget we've got blinkers on at times, don't we?
Yeah, 100%. And I think with a coach, you've got to find someone that works for you. It was really odd that the Bob in my journey was this. Bob coached me for 7 years, but I spoke to him 12 months before we started and I just didn't connect. And I was like, this guy doesn't work for me. And then 12 months later, our paths crossed again. And I literally looked at him after about 2 words and said, okay, I think I'm ready now.
Timing was right.
Yeah. And you've also got to have a coach that I believe won't tell you what you want to hear. And Bob was never like that. We used to speak once a week for 15 minutes and he used to say, mate, you've had a crap week. And it was just like, yeah, okay. And I knew that, but it was hearing it. And the other game changer for me was structure around an ideal week. And looking at, you'd look at your week in advance, but you'd have structure in place, because my problem was that I would think I was making calls in the morning, then I'd go and do appointments, come back and do them in the afternoon, and it wasn't the flow. So I changed it that, for example, Mondays might have been call days, appointments after 5, or, AM, PM. It just had whatever works for you. You have to build your own ideal week, I believe, because your life is different to my life.
100%.
You've got children or, relationships or where it all falls into it. And I've been doing a little bit with some of our new starters lately, is put the big rocks in first, which is the personal stuff, and then all the work commitments, and then build the rest around. What we tend to do is put all the work stuff in first, and then there's no time for the personal stuff.
Yeah, 100% true. I'm going to park that one for a minute because I'm going to come back to that. You mentioned working with some new agents. You guys have brought on a lot of new agents from outside the industry, and your role at the moment, just for clarity for everyone who's listening, can you just tell us what your role is in the Cunninghams business?
The title is performance and growth, but it's probably a sales management / a little bit of property management work, but it's overall performance across the business. And it's a role I really enjoy at the moment.
Yeah, awesome. And so obviously working with those new agents, new to the industry is different to working with experienced agents. What if I was new walking into your business today? Where do you focus your time and energy in your role in that leadership space? Because essentially you're a mentor now. So I'm kind of hearing what you're saying your mentor spoke to you 17 years ago about. And I'm thinking, I know that, a lot of this is still reflective of, your role now mentoring young agents.
Yeah, it's been different because you bring them in from all different walks of life, and we've had ones that have worked in coffee shops to accountants, and so it's really different personalities. You've got to go in with a mentality that you just got to believe that they just don't know anything.
Yeah.
But it's also right from day one, and literally it's the first conversation, is that we talk about they've got to leave what they know at the front door, and because they think they've read books or they've read articles in the paper or they've spoken to someone that used to be a real estate agent. So they think they know a lot before they start. So we talk about leaving that at the front door. Then we talk about the fact that we need to rewire them and we need to get them into our mindset and into what we do and how we do it.
Yeah.
And then the process from there is keeping it under control, because as they have little wins, they think they're ready to take off. And even though we explain it to them from day one that this is like an apprenticeship and it's going to take some time, you've kind of got to keep control. And it's making sure that they're getting the best out of everything and understanding it. Also, from our point of view, is not thinking that they know everything, and making sure that we spend time with them. And it's, again, I explain it to them, it's not about micromanaging, but we have a morning meeting every morning and we have daily learning for them, whether it's online or reading a book or sitting there doing role play, because they don't know what they don't know. And we need to make sure, one, they're not saying and doing the wrong thing, but secondly, that they're learning and growing every day. And that's the reason why we've taken on, I think we took on 4 or 5 this year, team members that have no real estate experience. It's because we can train them, educate them and make them into the agents that we want them to be, and give them a really solid foundation for their career.
So if I'm starting out now, what's your time frame for me? Because you're right when you said that, we, and I say we collectively, and I'm generalizing here, but you start as a new agent and you get really excited because you get your first appraisal or you get your first, win with a sale or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you think, oh, I can do this. It's easy. And I say that, with, with respect, because we know it's not easy. But what's your time frame if I was starting brand new to the industry as a sales agent and my goal is to be a standalone agent?
The goal to get to a standalone agent is probably a 2-year process.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to sound kind of weird, but we spend the first 3 to 6 months just teaching the basics, and the basics are making phone calls, knocking on doors. We master the art of open homes and buyer inspections and really hone in on it. But we keep bringing it back to the fact that if they actually can't make phone calls and we're not focusing on the booking of the appointment. Yes, the appointment is what we want, the appraisal or the buyer inspection, but it's moving that person forward. And John and I talk about it a lot with them. It's having the little wins out of every phone call. So if I'm talking to you, for argument's sake, Lauren, and you don't want an appraisal on your property, but you say, please send me an updated newsletter once a month, that's a win for us, because we've taken you sitting in our database doing nothing to all of a sudden we're now engaging with you. And that process over the first 2 years is about building clients, building rapport, knowing the dialogue. And one of the biggest things we've found in this industry is that agents don't listen. So we're trying to teach them the listening skills, and our role plays are around, we're going to give you an opportunity to walk through the door, but you've got to listen for the opportunity. And that process, we've been doing it for the last 12 weeks with them, and they're just starting to get it. And even after 20 something years in this industry, I don't listen. So that's been really good learning for myself. But that's what we're trying to teach them is to read the room, so that when they are in an appointment, they're sitting there saying, well, hang on, the wife's not here and these guys are going to make a decision. I need to pull back and get both together to make the right decision. Or these people are they need intense detail within 15 minutes and I've got to get out, or they want to sit here and talk for 3 hours. And that it's that sort of stuff that we spend time teaching them.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult because they do, as you said, they book an appointment and they think, well, why can't I go? So we pre-frame that and say for the first 3 months, it's literally going to be Groundhog Day. You're going to be booking appointments and you're going to be handing it to an experienced agent. And then we'll introduce the agent to take them with them, and it's a stop, listen and learn, but hopefully we've given them the back end stuff. As far as their careers, and we say that to them all the time, is that they've got to want it more than us. And, you know, they may need to do the extra hours or they may need to do the extra learnings or whatever it is, but we can only get them so far, and then they'll go to the next stage. And there can be little stops along the way. For argument's sake, it can be they make calls and then one of our agents needs an associate. Well, they might go there 2 or 3 days and then come stay with us 2 or 3 days, and we'll do learnings with them. So the agents, because what we've learned is agents get busy, and then the training stops for the new people, and all of a sudden all the hard work falls off. So and it's not a control thing at all. It's making sure that our agents are being looked after, and also we're bringing quality people through the process.
It's consistency, and you're right. We get to a point, and we've all done it, you know, in different roles. We get to a point where we think we know everything, so to speak, and so we think, okay, well, we don't have to learn anymore. We'll just, you know, we'll go and do. And it's not until something goes wrong or results don't happen that you backtrack and you think, well, hang on, what did I stop and what did I change? It's that learning piece, isn't it? Yeah. And for me, it sounds like you guys do a really good job in the consistency of moving forward.
It's also the disciplines, and we're trying to teach them, because as anyone knows, you get on the phone and you can, I mean, it was funny, one of them said to me the other day, I go 3 hours, you know, in blocks, and I book nothing, I'm deflated, and then all of a sudden I pick up the phone and something happens and my energy goes again. It's controlling their energy, the peaks and troughs of this industry, the disciplines, and that's why we hold them daily accountable. We want to know, and we teach them with the daily accountability. The daily accountability is learnings for us, because we can say, well, you've made 50 calls today and got no results at all. Maybe it's something we've taught you that's wrong, and we've got to look in the mirror. Can also be on the upside, is that they've made 10 calls and booked 10 appointments. It's like, okay, well, what are you doing? Because we really want to pass this through.
Absolutely.
So, the biggest thing we've found with the new recruits is that you've got to give them the time. And I think this is the problem with the industry, is that what we do is we bring these people on and we say, go and make some phone calls, and we wish them well and never come back to them.
Yes.
So we've designed a program around the first 4 weeks, we're literally sitting side by side, and then as the time goes on, we step away and then step back in. But one thing we've learned is you've got to have one-on-one meetings with them 2 or 3 times a week. And it's not about where they're at in their real estate career. It's like, okay, tell me what you're learning, tell me what's going wrong. And it's the little things like, do you know where the printer is? Do you know how to put paper in the printer? Because most of us just assume, oh, well, they know what a printer is. Well, sometimes they don't. And then they're getting frustrated in the role because they're like, I want to print this, and it's a distraction. So we're trying to eliminate all those distractions as well. There's a lot that goes in it.
Yeah, sounds like it. So let's just focus on those disciplines for a second. What are those disciplines that, you know, as a new agent, I need to focus on?
The disciplines are, it's one, looking at your own energy and saying, okay, how is my energy? What do I need to do to keep my energy high? The disciplines are around the daily accountability, and it's almost not negotiable, because I know, you know, everyone knows that if you actually stop and look at what you're doing with your day, you will develop good habits. And it's very hard, because someone will want to talk to them and they'll think, great, this is 15 minutes that I can just get away with doing nothing here. Or, you know, that the sales meeting starts at 9:30 and we wish everyone was like this. They get there at 9:10. It's like, well, guys, you've just wasted 20 minutes. So it's great they're early. It's great they showed up. But you know what? There's 20 minutes there that we could have done something. The disciplines are around the learning, because, you know, we joke about it, but some agents that have been in the industry 20 years still sit in the front row at a course, and they still bring their notebook and they still write everything down. And they think that they get 6 weeks in, I don't need my notepad anymore and I don't need to write anything down. And someone will say something that's gold or it's a gem, and you just write it down. And we're very big on having not only teaching real estate, but teaching wellness and health. And so we'll have nutritionists come in and speak, or we'll have, you know, the other day we had a finance person come in and speak, and then a financial planner come and speak. So it's about, let's grab bits of parts of their life and plug it into them, because again, this industry so hell bent on, well, how many calls did you make, and you know, what were your results, where it's actually more to it. If we get the fundamentals right and get their life right, then the rest of it falls into place.
So true, because it's, you know, I had a mentor of mine, and always used to, their first question to me in any one-on-one that I had, obviously she was a manager as well as a mentor, but it was always, how are you and how are things at home?
Yeah.
Because if those two, you know, if things at home, so to speak, weren't great, or I wasn't great, the results aren't going to come.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like putting those big rocks in first and then filling up with the work stuff. It's so true. And I love that you guys focus on that as opposed to just the activity that we have to do in a sales role, or in any role, really. It's not just sales.
And the other thing about when you're mentoring or taking someone new on is that you've got, as a trainer or a mentor, you've got to be flexible and you've got to be adaptable, because not a one size fits all. And it's been really interesting because the three we started, one had worked in a cafe, the other one was an accountant, and the other one had done a little bit of house and land packages, but not very long, let's say that. So they were all very, very different. And I think if I'd picked how their career was going to pan out at the beginning, well, I was wrong. We're all going totally the opposite way to what I thought. So you've got to be flexible. And some of them want you to be there every 2 minutes. Others need you there every 4 minutes.
True.
It's just an adaptability from our part. And you've got to be able to step back and say, hang on, am I actually doing the right thing by these people? And what more do they need, or what less do they need? You've also got to teach them they've got to step outside their comfort zone, I suppose. So.
Yeah. And I think that's the key to leadership, isn't it? It's setting up your team for success is what you're doing every day. So it's not necessarily just the one-on-one and then you check out. It's every single day you turn up in that leadership space and saying, what am I doing to help my team, the individual, succeed for today? Because every day's different, as you said.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I think for me, if I was then to say, like you mentioned, actually, I'm going to backtrack. You mentioned something that I want to just drill down a little bit more and get your thoughts on it. It's about building relationships. We know this in sales, and from what you've said, like, you know, your quick wins are around, like, if we get them to accept a yes to the newsletter or a yes to, you know, whatever it is, it's moving that relationship forward. Talk to me more about the importance of helping your team build relationships with your client for that long-term career.
It's probably the most important thing, because, and one of the things we talk about is that you're always in real estate mode, and it doesn't matter whether we say it to the young guys, like you can think you're in real estate mode 8 hours of the day, but when you're at the pub on the Friday night, you're still there, because the odds on you go and do something silly at the pub, your net appraisal on the Monday is going to be someone that you met at the pub, and they're going to go, hang on, you were the drunk guy at the pub. But one of the other things we talk about is, you know, I'm very lucky I work with John, who's been in the industry for a very long time. We still get calls that people say, oh, John gave a friend of mine advice 30 years ago. And we say to them, the relationship you start today, you just don't know where it's going to pan out to, or who's going to refer someone to someone. And it's funny, we had a call from someone the other day that had spoken to John 30 years ago, and he said to them, the renovations you're looking to do 30 years ago, he said that will impact your price later on down the track. And they just came back to him and said, we're going to sell with you, John, because of the advice you gave us. So that relationship you start today is going to be for the rest of your life, or rest of your career that you're in this industry. And it's about, we hone in on do what you say you're going to do. So if you hang up the phone call and you've said to them, I'm going to send you some information and I'll send it to you within 24 hours, do it. And it's funny because I've got an agent who started with me that has a little bit of experience. He started on Monday, and we talked about what you start today is what you're going to do for the rest of your career. So we've built the program on, after every call, is it a text message, is it an email, is it a follow-up phone call, et cetera, and how many times do you call after an open home? Because I know that once it's wired in today, he'll be doing that in 20 years' time, versus me that used to call once and then think I'd ring back, 3 months later. It was 6 months later, and the first couple of years was absolutely she might as well, let's just call it that.
Yeah,
Spasmodic.
their name's in a database and I'll remember to call them. Doesn't work like that, does it?
I didn't have a database, so that's the bad news. Didn't think it was important back then.
Well, you live and learn, right, Rob?
Exactly.
It's so true, though. Like, I think we focus so much on in sales, we focus on the deal and we focus on the now, that it's not just about that. It's about that long-term approach. Now, I think the other thing that I know you guys do well, like, I mean, we've worked together in the past, but I've, know enough about what you're doing around that sort of cross-reference within the business, or cross-referral, sorry, within the business, and the importance of the new guys, but the whole team understanding the importance of that for that relationship piece. I think it's something that you do very well. Can you just talk to us around how that works and why it's so important to your business?
We run an open database, and there's no locked drawers, or there's no. So the belief that we have within the organisation is that the client is the most important person. And it's funny, when I started with Cunninghams, it's such a different philosophy versus other agencies. It's about, we know that if we look after our clients will look after us, and then as a team, obviously we will look after the business. So it's actually done in reverse to what most agencies run with. So, and it's so, when you get your head around it, it's so much simpler. But that's a belief in the sense that not all agents are perfect for each client. So for argument's sake, Lauren, you mean I'm come out to present to you, I may not be the right person. So we look at the person, we look at where we're at, and then we're also a believer in that, does it really matter if they're going to sell or rent the property, as long as we look after them and we know we're the best people. So we make sure that, you know what, there's every opportunity. Let's get a property manager to pop in there, or let's get a salesperson to pop in there, or it might be a finance referral, wherever it happens to be. The client comes first, and that's in our DNA. It's in absolute DNA that we've had from day one, is that we need to look after the client, and that's the internal stuff.
I love that. And I think that would also then, if I'm guessing, work back to training in terms of who's asking what questions, and really understanding, why am I asking this question? And you mentioned just when we were chatting before around the leasing team, we're starting to get buyer leads for the sales team. And I think, you can talk to more about this, but I think that's really the key, is the whole business going, okay, well, I don't just work in leasing, and I'm not just helping a tenant find a new home. I can actually help my team by asking the client the right questions and helping the client.
And we, with our team, we focus on the fact that everyone is in real estate, because there's a real mentality out there that, oh, I'm a salesperson, well, I'm in sales, and I'm a property manager, so I'm in property management, and I'm the receptionist, so I'm the receptionist. But put job titles aside, because I can't stand them. Everyone's in real estate, and everyone has an opportunity to help someone, or everyone has an opportunity to potentially make money if that's the way they want to look at it. So the receptionist needs to understand that she's in real estate. She's always talking to people. He's always talking to people. Yeah. With the leasing team, it was very, and we've only started over the last couple of months, but it was very, are you interested in the property? No. Okay, thanks very much. And that's because that's the way it's been taught for X amount of years. We've all tried to change it, but we've got a default. We go back to let's get as quick as we can. When we dug a bit deeper, and it was like, okay, so you're not interested in the property. What are you looking for? And then we build a profile on these people, so that if we had something potentially come up to rent, we could actually service them to start with and say, guess what? This property's come on the market again. It's great for the owner, because the owner can say, well, hang on, you've got ready-made tenant. But it was also around the whole, well, have you thought about buying? Oh, no, we couldn't possibly afford to do that. Let's get someone to talk to you. And then there can be a plan put in place of, okay, well, you can't buy today, but you might be able to buy in 6 months' time if you do this, this, and this. And our theory was actually probably the most exciting thing when it started to happen, was that we're actually starting them as a Cunninghams client before any other process. So they're going to go as a raving fan saying, you know what, I rent through Cunninghams. I've got a savings plan in place through a finance person. And guess what? I'm going to buy through Cunninghams. Well, guess what? They might then go on to lease their property through Cunninghams. They might go on to sell their property through Cunninghams. Yeah. This journey might be for the rest of their lives. So if you look at the foundations, we're actually getting in before everyone. We believe we're getting in before everyone else, and it was probably the most exciting call that I got on Saturday when one of the leasing team rang me and said, I've got a finance referral. What do I do with it? I was like, mate, my job's complete. I can just about my career, I'm done. But it's about that. And then the leasing team can then pass it on to a finance person. Then they can pass it on to a salesperson. Salesperson can talk to them. And then all of a sudden it also helps with the culture because everyone's collaborating, everyone's talking to each other, everyone's, it's like, oh, thanks for that referral. By the way, I've spoken to Ben, we've shown him 3 properties, and all of a sudden everyone gets a bit of satisfaction. So we're not just coming to work to do our job. We're actually coming to work to have some fun and provide a service, and there's energy in the building. So if someone's a bit flat, someone else will pick them up. So funnily enough, it all falls under the same umbrella. It's just a matter of executing.
Yeah, it so is. And I love that it's just, at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's about the client.
Yeah, that's one thing I would say. It's never about us. It's always about the client.
Always. All right, Rob, to finish up, what's one last piece of advice that you would like to impart to anyone who's listening today, regardless of where they are in their career? Because I know you have lots of words of wisdom there, and that's probably really, really tough question for you to ask now that I've said it out loud.
Yeah. You've asked for one. That's going to be a challenge for me. Look, I think there is a couple. One is know why you get out of bed, and everyone's different as to why. You've got to have something in your life that excites you, and that can be anything. For me, it's not a shiny car, but it could be, what you want to own a nice car, or you want to go on a holiday. But know what that why is, and actually have some direction. I would probably encourage everyone to get a coach or a mentor of some description, whether it's someone that's external, someone that's internal. It can be, someone that it can be another agent from a competitor that you get along with, but just make sure they're not going to tell you what you want to hear. And that coaching piece may change as time goes on. We spoke about it earlier that I had a coach in America. Well, now I've got a head of performance who used to train an NRL team that I stumbled across, and you know what, it's working for me at the moment. It might not work for me in 12 months' time. So always be moving with it, I think, but enjoy what you do. I think that's a big one. If you don't enjoy it, then there might be another career out there, I think.
Well, it's a
got to enjoy it.
Long day, long year, long life.
It's not the easiest industry.
Yeah, 100% agree. Rob, thank you. For me, so many bits and pieces in there that I know relate to, not just, what I do as a coach, what I do in my business, but also, if I'm in sales, thinking, starting, 5 years in, 10 years in, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. We've got to have those disciplines. We've got to have that structure. We have to focus on that client because that's the most important thing. And as you said, enjoy what you do. So thank you for your time today, Rob. It's been brilliant, and I'm sure lots of takeaways for everyone listening.
Excellent. Thanks, Lauren.